The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I not only say the things I need to say, but the things I think you need to hear. And your feelings, they're not a factor.
Start your wellness journey at Whole Foods Market, where it's Jumpstart January through the 16th. Stock up on supplements with some of the year's biggest savings. Plus, save on air-chilled organic boneless skinless chicken breasts, organic Honey Crisp apples, organic large Hass avocados, and more. And since Whole Foods Market is the only certified organic national grocer, it's easy to make them your wellness destination. Jumpstart your January now at Whole Foods Market.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. So we're going to start this out as we do. Josh, Jake, B-Word, Iceman, Jason, Miss Aaron, Mike, Tabby, Javier, Fitz McShane, El Jefe, and a special shout out to Craig, and then El Devlin and El Morte. Thank you guys for your support. You guys mean a lot to me. And a quick congratulations to the winners of the drawing that happened this past weekend. The winners were Alex and Lisa and Josh. So, yeah, I actually wound up doing 3 instead of 2. So, anyway, congratulations to the winners. I've already reached out and contacted people with their information. They have their gift cards that they will hopefully be using to buy some wonderful merchandise from HorribleDesigns.com. HorribleDesigns.com, where they can put pretty much anything on merchandise, even if they probably shouldn't. Big friends of the show, love them, go support them. They have some great stuff. They have the Ken Madden collection from Mad K Studios, put on stuff. It's really amazing artwork. You guys should go check it out. Even if you didn't win free shit, you could still go buy shit. And use the code I Had to Say It when you check out, and you get 10% off, too. So anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of what this episode is. And I don't have like a specific one thing really on my mind that I want to talk about, like a specific event or series of events. It's more of a compilation of the way everything seems to be going these days. It seems like the world's bound and determined to just tear itself the fuck apart at this point, and I can't believe it's accidental anymore. This shit is ridiculous. It's deliberate. The tinfoil hat guys might be fucking right. All the New World Order, one world government bullshit really seems to be what they're pushing for, where they're not even trying to hide it anymore, which is what the conspiracy theorists have been saying for years. Oh, it's right there if you're willing to see it. But it's like they're not even trying to mask the bullshit anymore. When you look in terms of they're still pushing every divisive bullshit narrative they can to try and keep us from unifying and realizing where the real problem is coming from. We've got career politicians doing what career politicians do, lying to the population. We've got young, stupid motherfuckers eating it up because, Grandpa on the TV says this is how things are going to be, and we can make the world gooder if we just do what Grandpa on the TV says. And they're too disconnected to realize that Grandpa on the TV is part of the fucking problem, and Grandpa on the TV created this bullshit in the first fucking place. And then we've still got the war between Israel and Palestine going on. There are in literally every country in the developed world. I mean, we're not hearing anything of protests and pickets and marches coming from like anywhere really in, say, Africa, because they've got, much different social economic structures in place. But in Europe, all throughout Europe, in the United States, in varying countries, we're getting a lot of pro-Palestine marches that are eerily reminiscent of the Summer of Love a couple of years back here, where a bunch of entitled, college-educated white kids were going around marching to tell the world how fucked their worldview was, regardless of the fact that they were actually causing more problems than they were supposedly standing up for. And there's a lot of statistics out there showing that a lot of the pro-Palestine marches are probably actually the exact same fucking stupid-ass 20-something-year-olds that were marching, screaming Black Lives Matters, burning down blue cities a couple of years ago. So you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt when you're looking at things and say, how serious is this? But then you look at the protests, and I'm using very heavy fucking air quotes when I say protests here, that are going on in other places around the globe and other countries that have allowed mass amounts of migrants to come in that are not assimilating. They're not conforming to the countries they're moving to. They're moving there and bringing their own values and beliefs with them and refusing to change and adapt, instead insisting that the countries they're moving to adapt to their way of life, which created the situations that they were fleeing from in the first place. And you get more and more of these militant Islamic groups that are calling for cultural overthrow. They are calling for other countries to say, we will capitulate and you will have your way. And I'm not saying this with any kind of fear of Islam. I'm not an Islamophobe. It's more, I am calling out the reality of these extremists and radicalists. I'm not saying every Muslim person is bad. I'm saying these specific fucking groups are bad. And if you're hung up on that, you can, fuck right off. That's pretty much my stance at this point is, if you don't like me, hit the pause button, hit the skip button, go to something else, or sit there and fucking seethe. I really don't care. Reality doesn't give a shit about what your feelings think. And frankly, neither do I. But we're seeing actual footage where in London, and well, not London, but in England in general, I don't know if it's all centralized in the city proper or not, but like pro-Palestine protests are going on and people are trying to counter-protest with British flags, and the cops are literally taking down the British flags and telling the people that are saying, not here, not in our country, to go home and to shut up because they're outnumbered by the pro-Palestine mobs. And here in the U.S., we have all these pro-Palestine mobs that are being bolstered by like Antifa groups and all these other things who are so out of fucking touch with reality that they don't realize their beliefs are completely repugnant to people who actually are devout in their Muslim beliefs. Anyone that actually follows the teachings of Islam does not want the support of people like the Antifa left in the United States, because they do not believe in things like homosexuality or any of the rainbow mafia alphabet groups. They don't think any of that is right or acceptable. They don't think you should have a right to transition children. They think all of these things are terrible and abominations against their God. And the disconnect is so strong in these young, stupid motherfuckers. I've actually seen footage of Antifa people arguing with Muslims about trying to convince them that they're on the same side, even though they have literally nothing in common other than a lot of these dumb leftist motherfuckers hear anybody striking out against who they perceive as their enemies must therefore be their ally. And they don't understand that that's not how the real fucking world works. They're so completely motivated by their own self-identity of like hatred and intolerance that they assume anybody else that hates the same things they hate is going to share all of their mindsets, because they're young and they're fucking stupid and they're brainwashed into being useful idiots by the old fuckers that are in control of things. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. And as we're winding up we're a year out from the election, almost to the day when I'm sitting here recording this, and the political machine is getting all these young, stupid motherfuckers riled up because there's a lot of them, and they're going to go out and they're easily manipulated. They still think they have some sort of righteousness in their side because they have been so thoroughly programmed. They don't see the disconnect, the absolute shit quality of their lives, the reasons they can't afford anything like their parents had, the reasons they are lacking any direction or any fucking self-worth or definition in their lives is exactly what was put in place deliberately by the motherfuckers they're out there supporting. The economy's in the toilet, but somehow it's not the fault of the ruling powers that be. The reckless and boundless fucking spending out of the federal government that is going to tank this fucking country. It's not the responsibility of the people that they're willing to fucking go out there and protest and picket and march for, saying we're going to keep these people in place because they tell us what we want to hear. They tell us we're right. They tell us we're special. They hold our hair and tell us we're pretty. These dumb fucking kids are so oblivious and so well programmed and so well and thoroughly fucked in the head that they will believe whatever they're told. They will regurgitate whatever lies they're fed, and they're going to be the fucking doom of us all, because they're sitting here. It's, oh, well, we were promised this and we were promised that, and we're fighting for justice and equality and social equity. Not actual fairness, but social equity. So the successful are beaten down instead of making the fucking inadequate work harder. Let's make the successful pay for the inadequacies of others, because that's equality and that's fair and that's right. So all of us worthless, useless, non-contributory fucks can feel validated and important and special. And it's the same reason why a lot of these assholes that get bent out of shape and are super out there, being super vocal. Oh, well, you don't respect my this, that, and the other, and so you will respect me and you will validate me, even though I've done literally fucking nothing to deserve validation or respect. And these are the little juvenile assholes that are shaping the future of this country under the guidance of a bunch of corrupt, archaic, walking fucking dinosaurs that are completely beyond the point of being vested in anything other than their short-term aggrandizement and their own luxury and comfort as they walk into the fucking sunset and passing on what corrupt gains they can to their children, but they realistically don't have any vested interest in being decent stewards of the world, because these archaic dinosaur motherfuckers will be dead before any of the consequences of their policies actually come home, and I'm sure to their mindset it is somebody else's fucking problem. And meanwhile, we've got the federal government out here funding studies to show how math is racist. And in the name of equity and fairness, because everything is racist, they're taking away testing standards, and they're instead of addressing the issues that are causing different groups of minorities to score poorly in certain subjects, say whether it's how they're being taught, because teachers, particularly in inner city schools where these statistics rise, are more or less not the top shelf educators that you would hope for a generation of raising new thinkers and doers. Instead, you get a lot of woke agenda pushing dipshits who would rather focus on social issues than teaching people how to think, because they themselves are incapable of critical thought or analysis, because if they were capable of critical thought and analysis, they wouldn't be these ultra-woke, social justice pushing pieces of shit. And I'm saying that as someone who believes in justice and equity and meritocracy. Now, I don't believe that everybody should get the same results. That's not my definition of justice. My definition of justice is we should all have the same opportunity. You should not be denied an opportunity based on your religion or your ethnicity or your orientation within the confines of certain things. Like, if you believe in a certain religion, your options may be limited by your choice to follow that religion and its dogma, but it is not a legal matter. That is a personal ethical choice. Whereas a lot of these modernistic, woke, hardcore, left-leaning social justice agenda-pushing pieces of shit have actually chosen to decry established religion and instead have filled that same role in their life with the fucking state. The state is all-powerful, the state cannot be denied, and the state will force our beliefs and show you that our way is the one true way to live your life. They just have chosen, instead of having it be a moral or ethical compulsion that they're going to be paying for all eternity for their choices of their current life, it's, if you don't do what we want you to do, you're going to go to jail because our side's in control of things and Big Daddy government says we're right. And these useful idiots are why we're getting stuck with a generation of children who can't do their basic times tables, but are sitting there and they can rattle off to you all the individual rights that a trans individual should have and how valid they are, and the fact that boys can sometimes get pregnant and sometimes, girls can have penises. Nothing that's actually useful or structured in a survival situation. Particularly when, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you're making a transition, if you are having gender reassignment surgery and you want to spend the rest of your natural life a big pharma customer because you can't do medical transition without a steady supply of chemicals, because your body's not wired that way. And no matter how much you wish and hope and pray that that's the truth, it will never be that way. That's not how biology works. We don't have the technology to literally change your DNA sequencing to have your body produce the hormones you need to change your biologically naturally occurring sex. It doesn't work that way. But if that's what you need to do to live your best life, and you're an adult, I say more power to you. Go live your best life. But when it's being treated as something where we have to start teaching children this through the gate, that they, not only is it creating lifelong customers, but I've gone on this before. It creates all kinds of health problems when you start fucking with your body's natural order of things before it has a chance to process its natural order of things. Puberty blockers are not reversible. Puberty blockers are the same things they use to chemically castrate sex offenders because it shuts the system down. And once it's shut down, it's not a switch. It hampers your proper development of the way your nature, your biology intended it to. So there's no reason to be forcing this shit on the kids. You want to educate them and teach them how to be critical thinkers, to how to assess their feelings, how to have an understanding and maybe a self-love for themselves that a lot of these people obviously are fucking lacking because they require all kinds of external validation. How about teaching kids how to accept themselves and to have that internal validation that some of us actually have and are perfectly content dealing with our own shortcomings in a natural and normal fucking way, instead of insisting the rest of the world adapt to our fucking issues. That's one of the things I really don't understand about this mentality of mediocrity that needs to be acceptable and okay, is without... Why would you be so hung up on people you apparently can't stand's opinion of you, that you need their validation and their acceptance, that you need that social stamp on your bullshit to say, you know what, you don't agree with this and you don't believe it, and I'm going to force you to accept me and authorize me. If personally, if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing and they don't accept me and they don't validate me, I don't fucking care. I stay true to myself. I believe in myself. I have faith in myself. And fuck you if you don't like me. Fuck you if you don't agree with what I think. I don't fucking care, because I don't value other people's opinions so fucking greatly that I need them to acknowledge and validate my beliefs and my stances. Otherwise, I'm fucking somehow miserable. I don't fucking care what other people think. It's a really simple approach to things if you stop and think about it. Instead of wanting the entire world to tell me I'm good enough and I'm smart enough, I tell myself I'm good enough and I'm smart enough. And I know that's not always the easiest thing to do. It's not like I'm some fucking super confident, like Alpha Chad or whatever the fuck these assholes want to call themselves. I question myself all the time. I regret tons of things I've done over the course of my life. I question pretty much every decision I've made in my life that led me to the point I'm at today. But I know I can't go back. I know I can't change it. And I don't expect anyone else to try and make me feel better about my decisions. I live with what I've done. I accept what I've done. I accept the things I can't change, and I work to change the things I fucking can. That's an ethic that we got lost along the way somewhere, and it creates these fucking clowns that want the world to burn because they don't feel like they fit into it. They don't have any sort of defined sense of self-worth, and it's going to fucking torpedo the entire fucking planet at the rate we're going. Not to get too much on the rah-rah nationalism shit, but it's jeopardizing literally the fate of this entire country. And I firmly believe the dinosaurs in control have completely sold out to the idea of a one world government under an elite class and a bunch of fucking peons to keep the fucking cogs rolling. And seeing as the vast majority of us qualify as peons, maybe it's just my perspective on things, but it behooves them to keep us at each other's throats and fucking stupid. Smart enough to fucking not shit in the aisles while you're at work, and dumb enough to unquestioningly follow all this other shit because they're the people that are in control and they know what's fucking best. That's why you get all this blatant horseshit that's happening to us, not for us or not around us, but to us on a day-to-day basis. People are constantly miserable. People are constantly whining and puling and bitching and moaning about their, my feelings this and my validation that, because we spent an entire generation not teaching people how to be self-sufficient, not teaching people how to find their own self-worth internally, but not to hold any kind of sense of value, but to require all this praise and validation from an external source. And when they're not getting that from reality, because reality doesn't fucking work that way, just the idea of getting that validation and that acceptance and that, since it's kind of a lack of self-love, that external love and validation from these kindly old fucks that are here to help us and tell us how right we are and how screwed over we've been by the system, and how other people who don't want to acknowledge us, our specialness, are the fucking enemy.
Sometimes people have a story to tell. It could be a story of triumph or a story of sorrow. However, it's their story. It's important to keep their story authentic, in their own words, and delivered in a delicate way. That's where Unfiltered Discussions podcast comes in. I'm Brian Howard. I talk with my guests about tough subjects and pivotal moments. I'd love for you to hear their stories. Subscribe to Unfiltered Discussions on your favorite podcast platform. Let's ensure their stories are heard.
Start your wellness journey at Whole Foods Market, where it's Jumpstart January through the 16th. Stock up on supplements with some of the year's biggest savings. Plus, save on air-chilled organic boneless skinless chicken breasts, organic Honeycrisp apples, organic large Hass avocados, and more. And since Whole Foods Market is the only certified organic national grocer, it's easy to make them your wellness destination. Jumpstart your January now at Whole Foods Market.
It reads like a bad fucking movie script. And I'm not talking like a bad movie that had good production values and just happened to turn out to be a bomb like, let's say the vast majority of everything that's come out in the theaters in the last few years, which is contributory to the stupid in this country too. But that's a whole nother story. But I mean bad movie, like something that was written by some fucking uptight college dropout who left college because people didn't understand his fucking vision, and he sits in a coffee house somewhere nursing the one black coffee because he's fucking a peasant because working is beneath someone with his artistic vision and value. And he doesn't really understand that what he's actually written is a bunch of pompous, poorly phrased, poorly worded, poor grammatically, just pile of steaming horse shit. And he's going to go somewhere and he's going to get a Super 8 camera. And because film is so much more true and so much warmer than using the modern digital technology. And for, the children of the late 70s, early 80s, this would be that motherfucker that used to sit around in the Greek restaurant at 2 o'clock in the morning nursing his one bottomless cup of black coffee, smoking clove cigarettes, and staring moodily off at everybody else that worked there, just knowing he was so much better and smarter than everybody else because he was sensitive and thoughtful and an artist and not a massive fucking douchebag. And it's not the reason that he couldn't get a girlfriend because he was a fucking pretentious fuck. It was just all the girls were stupid, empty-headed, vacuous broads who just wanted to fuck the Chad football players. And that's the problem with them, not him. I mean, that's the kind of person I envision when I have to figure out who's coming up with this bullshit and feeding it to the fucking exponentially worse assholes that came afterwards. The morons who want to sit here and say, oh, well, we have to believe in equity, and if someone tells you who they are, you should believe them. No, if someone tells you who they are and it's not what they present to society, whether it be through behavior, appearance, demeanor, or character, then they are fucking delusional, and going along with them is not doing them any favors. That's indulging their fucking delusions. That's validating their fucking bullshit, and that's why you have, the top 3 female cyclists in the country are all biological males right now. Women's sports are being invaded by people who have a biological, physiological advantage in the name of equity and inclusion because they feel like they're women. Not because they failed massively as men and that's the only way they can win, but it's because who they really are. And we have people out there pushing this nonsense and saying, oh no, these losers and failures feeling validated by saying, oh, well, this is why I'm a loser and a failure, because if I'm over here, I'm actually successful and fantastic and wonderful, and I'm the best, so this must be my true self. No, you're weak, you have flawed character, and you are using anything you can to try and validate yourself and make yourself feel better, particularly the motherfuckers who will only do these things in the context of trying to accomplish something they failed at in their natural biological alignment. And I don't know how I kind of cantered off to this particular aspect of it, but it's something that's floating around in my head and pissing me off. When you have a biological advantage over your competition that is not something that can be trained away, not something that can be offset through experience or skill, you're fucking cheating. You're not living your truest identity. If your truest identity is to be a female and you were born a male, then you don't need to be competing any fucking more. If your truest identity is I'm a female, but I still want to compete, you can compete against other transitioned females. That would be fair. That would take the biological skew out of the equation. But saying that makes you an ist or a phobe or whatever other fucking thing they want to throw at you to try and sabotage your version of reality, which happens to be the physiological and biological truth. If it's about living your best life and following your truest identity and being who you really are, then you shouldn't need the validation of winning these competitions by leaps and bounds over what you actually are claiming to be. It's the whole mental disconnect. I keep coming back to this. It's a weakness of character. It's a flaw of character. It's a lack of self-worth that cannot be offset without the rest of the planet bowing down to, and this whole mentality is just so fucking egomaniacal and so irritating to me because you get these arrogant motherfuckers that want to try and say, oh, well, I'm the best and I'm just happy to be here. No, you were a fucking failure and you did something that was an outlandish concept so much as a decade ago that is the most ridiculous form of cheating you can actually come up with. Because if that wasn't the case, if it was about being your true self and not about winning, you'd be seeing a lot more women transitioning to men and competing in that case. But it's never the fucking case. There's not been one instance that I can think of that I've heard of anywhere of a woman transitioning to compete in men's sports. You know why? Because the women that are transitioning to men are not doing it to gain an edge in competition. They're not doing it to offset their feelings of failure for not being good enough at what they did in their biological category. I mean, they may have their own other reasons to do it. And again, I'm not here to judge. Do you. Be happy. Live your best fucking life. Don't force it on anybody else. Don't expect anybody else to sit there and say, you know what, you're right and you're a good person because you made this choice. That's between you and you. The rest of society is under no fucking obligation to indulge your fantasies, particularly if you're not presenting what you're claiming to be too well. If you look like me in fucking drag, you have no right to get bent out of shape when somebody assumes you're a sir. Because I display the primary sex traits of a big, bald-ass, hairy fucking man. And yes, I'm aware that I said bald and hairy in the same fucking breath. That's because the top of my head is not hairy, and my face and my chest are. It happens. It's the way the world works sometimes. It's biology. It's nature. Shit happens. If you look like me in a fucking dress, you still look like a dude. You look like a dude in a dress. I'm saying this as someone who will wear a kilt in public. And if somebody refers to me as ma'am, I'm going to laugh my ass off and go, dude, I'm not swinging that way. It's a kilt. Or I'm not trying to transition. I'm not trying to market myself as anything other than what I actually fucking am. And it's just a matter of accepting who you are, accepting what you can't change, or doing the things you need to do to change the things you can. But again, if you're not presenting that forward-looking face, you're not entitled to get bent out of shape when the world doesn't check with you first. It's fucking arrogant. It's obscenely self-centered. Thinking the entire world should tiptoe around your fucking feelings is completely unrealistic. It's the most ridiculous form of vanity I can imagine. And we've got assholes out here trying to shove this down everyone's throat, saying this is the way the world works and this is how it should be, because if you don't validate us, you're a phobe, you're an ist, you're an igot, you're a whatever. It fucking is ridiculous. Now, fortunately, it seems to be losing some steam. There's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of, and I'm seeing this, I don't know what we're calling them, Generation Alpha, I guess. Not quite the tail end of Gen Z into the youth of tomorrow are showing a lot more pushback to it. We have high school kids that are staging walkouts and protests in the name of keeping biological males out of women's spaces. Not because they don't want to be inclusive and accepting, but because bad actors keep using that opportunity to fucking do bad shit. In one of the high schools, we actually had a self-identified male to female transitioner student commit multiple sexual assaults on other females, because they're saying other female because they're insisting that this dude be reporting as a female because that's what he identifies as, but has subsequently sexually assaulted multiple females in what should be traditionally safe female spaces, because he was in there because he identified as a female, told the administration, I'm a girl and I want to use the girls' locker room, and then proceeded to sexually assault girls in the bathroom. Which, if for the people who are legitimately having gender dysphoria or identity issues, you should be speaking out against this shit louder than anybody else, because they are invalidating your stance completely through their actions and through opportunistic exploitation of this bullshit. And every single person I've seen that is very vocally like, oh, well, I'd like to see you keep me out of the women's restroom. I'm a trans female lesbian. Keep me out. No, you're a dude in a dress. If you are a trans female lesbian, you are a male to female individual who is still attracted to females. That makes you a straight guy, especially if you didn't get the bottom surgery. If you did not have your dick chopped off and you're identifying as a lesbian female, you are a fucking straight dude who is being a fucking creep. Be comfortable. Wear whatever you want. Wear whatever makes you feel pretty. If you want to put on makeup and grow your hair out and grow a set of fucking tits, I'd love to give you mine. I'm working in the gym every day to try and get rid of the ones I managed to give myself. I'd love to share them with you. You could have them if it was possible. But if you're still attracted to women and you still have a cock, what you're wearing is not defining your identity. You are not a woman who happens to be a lesbian. You're a dude who is in a dress trying to go into women's spaces, and it's fucking inappropriate. If you have a problem with this stance, A, again, I don't fucking care, and B, you're either in denial or you're just being a manipulative piece of shit. Because if you honestly believed you were a woman just trapped in the wrong body and you happen to be a lesbian that has a cock, you should be sympathizing more towards your sisters and the discomfort you may be causing them. But you're not sympathetic because you're not actually being empathic. You're not being a woman who's putting herself in the position of having to deal with a man in a traditionally female space. You are an arrogant egotist who is saying, I am a woman and you must validate me. Never mind that I got a fucking 9-inch hog and I'm going to get a hard-on when I'm in the women's locker room because we're all girls here. And you're going to be looking at tits, and you're going to get a hard-on, and they're going to just say, oh, look, there's a hard-on. It's not, oh, that must be a trans-identifying lesbian. No, it's there's a dick. So, yeah, if you actually feel that you're a woman and you're trapped in the wrong body and you, for whatever reason, don't have the resources to go on home run therapy and get your dick chopped off and make that commitment to be a woman, then maybe you need to be a little more empathic towards your sisters and a little more understanding and say, well, how would I feel if there was some random cock in my face? I don't think I'd like that. Maybe I shouldn't do that to the other, women in the room. Maybe I should be a little more understanding. Maybe I should be a little more empathic. Maybe I should be a decent fucking human being instead of a fucking selfish prat. Wow, I really went off on this here. I guess it's just because it bothers me. Again, because more so than anything else, what bothers me is there are people out there who legitimately have these issues. There are people out there who legitimately need to change who they are or how they identify or what they feel as, because they have something that is either lacking in their system or something is out of balance or out of whack. And no matter what they do, they can't fix it until they adjust these things. And I feel for those people because that's gotta suck. Feeling like you're legitimately born in the wrong body and you can't do anything about it has got to be fucking emotionally and mentally crippling. However, I think the vast majority of these fucks, because let's face it, this was not, people that were transgender or at one point they were just cross-dressing or whatever it was, there was a time where there was not nearly the kind of volume where it exists in today. And it's not just because, it's more socially acceptable to be valid to your true self now. Maybe it is. And I'm all for accepting people at their best, at their face value of who they are and who they're trying to be, as long as it's fucking genuine. I think there's a lot more fucking opportunistic parasites out here who are taking advantage of what should be a state of acceptance for their own selfish fucking reasons. And it drives me fucking nuts. It's the grand overarching theme of this rant is people need to pull their heads out of their fucking collective asses. Stop looking for external validation for your own bullshit. Stop being so fucking selfish that you need the world to tell you you're fucking right because somewhere deep down you know you're fucking wrong. And maybe then we'll actually be in a position where it will be harder to manipulate situations for what they are. It will be harder to turn acceptance into a fucking opportunity to be a shitty human being, to be a fucking scumbag that is going to take advantage of a situation that was created from a place of love and empathy and turn it into a fucking shit show of self-serving bullshit, and then try and cry the victim when they're called on it. Try and act like they're the ones being mistreated for their own misdeeds coming back and slapping them in the fucking face. It's utterly ridiculous that we have gotten to a point where the idea of being okay with who you are and accepting people for what they are is so fucking out of pocket, where the more conservative minded individuals that are coming from entirely different cultures look at this shit with disdain. There's no inspiration of respect or even, there was a time where, yeah, we may have not been necessarily well liked, but we were respected and to a certain extent feared because we had principles and we stood upon them, and they were principles that involved strength and security and leadership. Now it's pandering and fucking weakness, and it's telegraphed to cultures that don't buy into this shit, that aren't going to respect it, no matter how much you march for them and say, oh, well, we're here for you. We don't agree with how your people are being treated. And, so that way you can love and respect us right back. And no, they're going to throw you off a fucking roof because in their minds you're a degenerate. And it doesn't matter how much help you provide to them and how much support you give them. They are never going to accept you, and they are never going to have that same flawed character that is going to allow them to say, well, just because you hate X and I hate X, we're on the same page. No, I hate X and I hate you fucking too. The fact that you don't hate me back is a you problem. And it's going to, it's stereotypical. There's so many memes being repurposed out of this statement. And we're in a point, this is an old statement. It's an old observation, hard times make strong men make soft times make weak men make hard times. We in this country and in most of the developed, quote unquote, part of the world are in the soft times, weak men phase of things. Hard men are coming to realign shit, and it's not going to go well. Now, fortunately, there are still holdouts and contingents of people who believe in core values of freedom and equity and responsibility that are still some hard motherfuckers. And they're not the vocal ones out there making all the racket and enhancing this fucking idea that everyone in the developed nations are soft and permissive and ultra liberal and ultra forgiving, and they're just going to hand over everything they have to the next fucking hard ass that comes along. There are hard people out there that still harbor core values of being, for lack of a better way of putting it, being accepting and forgiving and allowing people to live their best lives as long as they're not hurting anybody. It's a much more independent mindset, which is why there's not a huge uprising and backing of this. It's not getting any kind of media coverage. And if you still trust the media at this point, you're a fucking idiot. I really don't care how you want to spin it. None of them are any good anymore. If you're still believing any official party lines, you're a fucking chump. You're a sucker. You're part of the fucking problem. Now, I'm not saying wrap your head in tinfoil and go live in the fucking woods. Unless you have the resources to go live in the fucking woods, and then wrap your head in whatever the fuck you want. Good on you for having the woods to run away to. I wish I was in a position where I could afford to, but I fucking can't because again, and I accept responsibility for where I am, but I made a lot of, less than stellar decisions in the course of my development, and I don't have the resources to run away like I would like to. Instead, I sit here in my little recording space and I bitch incessantly, and a couple dozen people like to listen to me talk, apparently. But yeah, it realistically, just because the loudest voices in the room, the fucking empty can that makes the most noise with one little pebble in it getting shaken around, And that's what the world sees. That's what the world perceives. And there's a lot of people out there, and they're here now. I mean, I'm a firm believer that, yes, there are sleeper cells in this country. There are terrorists in this country. There are people here that intend to do harm to the United States. Were they let in deliberately, or were they let in through an act of negligence? It doesn't fucking matter. What matters is they're here. All the gotaways that the fucking Border Patrol reported, even I really doubt the numbers are anywhere near accurate. Those are just the ones they reported. There are millions of people in this country that are unvetted, unsecured, and the vast majority of them are military-age men. I don't think that's a coincidence. I mean, yeah, there's some arguments that, well, that's the day laborers and the fucking farmhands and yada, yada, yada. That's young men's work, and they send the money back to their countries. Maybe that's how it was 10 years ago. There are people that are not from Central and South America crossing that border every fucking day. There are people that are here with the intent that when the time comes and the call goes out, they are going to start fucking shit up. Because we have presented a planetary face of being weak and indecisive and unfocused, focused on the wrong things, focused on things that to their mentality make us easy victims and soft targets. And we have the politicians and the fucking social leaders trying to make the situation work, trying to compound it, trying to further disarm the population, trying to make law-abiding citizens into criminals so they can prosecute them so they do not have to face resistance to their ideals. And those are the ideals that are going to get this fucking country ended. And, okay, I'm kind of running out of steam. I apologize. It's cold and flu season. Maybe I got a bug. Maybe I'm just worn out. But this is where I'm going to wrap it up, and I am going to put a pin in it and say that for now, that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Go to ihadtosayitpodcast.com, sign up for the mailing list, interact with the show. Click the links, sign up for the Patreon, join the Discord, come and interact, be a part of the show, buy the merch, support your favorite creator, or support me. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Till next time.